If you're planning a solo trip to Ireland, I know that you have questions. And today I'm sharing the answers to help keep you safe, travel secure, and feel confident in your upcoming vacation. Hi, thanks for joining me again here on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. I get so many emails from women who are curious or maybe even a little concerned about traveling solo to Ireland. So I wanted to address that today and share some of my solo travel tips to help inspire you to visit Ireland on your own. When you're traveling solo in Ireland, staying connected is super important. So I want to make sure that you know about my partner, Wi-Fi Candy. Whether you want to keep in touch with family and friends and sharing those great pictures, or you need to check in with your contact at home, like, I'm okay, Mom. Wi-Fi Candy is who I rely on when I'm in Ireland. When I travel solo, I order the eSIM for data to run any maps that I need, and the new 5G eSIM also allows for phone calls. But of course, you can use it with WhatsApp and make phone calls that way as well. Now, when I do want more connectivity, I will get the portable Wi-Fi because I can connect all my devices to it at once. So if I'm at the hotel and I need to be online and my phone, my camera, my computer, everything can be connected to one device, super easy. And it costs less to do that than to hire the $10 a day, $12 a day connectivity from my phone company. Check out Wi-Fi Candy for connectivity during your trip at IrelandFamilyVacations.com/Wi-Fi. And don't forget to use my exclusive code IFV10 to save 10% on your order. So to start with, I'm just going to reassure you, Ireland has been and remains one of the safest countries in the world for solo female travelers. I have traveled through the country on my own for 23 years, and I've actually traveled when my girls were quite young. It was just me and them in Ireland. And I can honestly say that not one time in Ireland have I ever felt unsafe. But, that said, you always want to travel smart. You want to be aware of your surroundings, and you want to not only know what you are doing, but let other people know what you are doing as well. So I'm sharing some of the tips that I personally use and that I have shared with people who have contacted me on how to kind of travel solo like a pro. So we're going to cover today safety, packing, and planning. Now, some of these things may feel like repeats if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, but they're all important, and I didn't want to skip them just because I've shared them before. So, safety first. You cannot ever discount your own good judgment. So if something feels wrong, trust your gut and leave. If you're walking in an area and, the hair starts to stand up on the back of your neck, turn around, go back to where you came from. If it seems like an area where a taxi might be a better idea than walking, spend the money on the taxi. So always use your own good judgment. When we're thinking about your important information, so IDs, passports, credit cards, bank cards, anything like that, anything that if it goes missing, it's going to cause a problem, right? So I recommend having copies of those. You can print them or you can have them in the cloud, but either way, they have to be accessible to you if you need proof of those documents. So what I would do is maybe put something in the cloud for you and then print out a copy, and you're going to leave those copies with a trusted friend or family member. So they have them in case, time differences and things. Sometimes it's just really handy to have somebody back in the US or back in your home country that has the same information, and if need be, they can step in and help you with something. You also want to make sure that that person has your itinerary. They know where you're going to be staying every night. They have a rough idea of your plans, and you want to maybe keep them updated on a regular basis. So if you say, I'm going to message you at, um, let's say, 10 p.m. Irish time, which is 4 p.m. your time, then that's your daily check-in. That's kind of your I'm okay, mom. Just to not only does it put you at ease, it puts them at ease. And if something goes awry, it's more likely to be noticed quickly. You want to remember that your devices, if you're sharing on Facebook or Instagram, both of those share your location in real time. So if you're worried about the people who maybe have access, if your accounts aren't private, make sure you turn those off. Don't let it share your information in real time. If you're talking about something that you've done or visited, make sure it's something that's in the past, that you're not, this is my amazing hotel room tonight. Not always the best option if you're traveling solo, so maybe scoot it back a day and share it in the past. You also want to have some emergency phone numbers and information handy. In Ireland, 999 is the number for emergency services. And you also want to have a ICE contact, or hashtag ICE, in case of emergency, on your phone. This makes it very easy for anybody who may need to help you to get in touch with somebody back home that might need to know if something has happened. There is also a tourist SOS website. It's touristsos.ie. I would definitely take a look at the website. They have a phone number as well that's local in Ireland, and have that information available to you to be used if you need it. When you're staying connected, especially traveling solo, it's just super important to make sure that your connections are there if you need them. So you're either going to have an international phone plan or an eSIM or a portable Wi-Fi device, something like that. So you always have that connection with your phone, your mobile device. Definitely consider downloading WhatsApp. It is widely used in Ireland. Most of the tour companies that you might be working with, a lot of the accommodations, they all have a WhatsApp. So it's an easy way to stay connected and not necessarily have to be able to make phone calls. Make sure that you have a charged power bank with you so your phone never dies. And when you're using a map app, keep the volume off or use just one single earbud, so you're not making it obvious that you don't know exactly where you're going. So if you're walking down the street, say in Dublin, you don't have to have your phone in front of your face to keep track of where you're going and your next steps. You can be guided by the sound of the earbud. When you are speaking to people, maybe in a pub or a restaurant, you want to use the plural of we, not I. So even if you're dining alone, that doesn't mean you won't be meeting up with somebody later. So always use we. We are going to Jameson. We are doing a walking tour tomorrow. Something like that. That way it gives the impression that you are not solo, not alone, and there are people looking out for you. I also highly recommend travel insurance for international vacations. You will want to keep a copy of the policy with you, and I would also give a copy of that policy to the same person that has your identification documents. Again, it's just handy to have somebody back at home who can kind of, be on your side if you need them to assist with anything. Moving on to packing. So this is something that I have covered pretty extensively in other podcasts. So you want to obviously think layers, think capsule wardrobe, mix and match. Travel as lightly as possible, especially when you're traveling solo. You don't have anybody else to carry a bag for you, and it's just easier to move around if you have less stuff with you. Leave the expensive jewelry at home. If you're traveling with jewelry, go for understated pieces. And remember that you want your shoes to be functional, not necessarily for fashion. And unless you have some sort of event that you are attending, leave the heels at home. For your bags, you want to have like a small day bag. For every day, I have a travel on bag that is super small. It has a cut proof strap, crossbody, and it is RFID protected. So have a small bag for that, doesn't get in the way. If you're going to carry a backpack, I recommend carrying one that has some security to it so it doesn't have a zipper that opens the top that maybe you won't feel if somebody unzips it while you're walking. Make sure they may be latch closed or lock closed. Possibly they have a hidden pocket in them. Just those little bits that make them a little bit less easy to pick, right? Also consider a money belt or a bra pouch for valuable items. So cash, credit cards, your passport, keep those very, very safe. You always want to keep your essentials with you. So whether you're packing for the flight or you are out during the day, you should have your passport with you unless it is locked in a hotel safe. Cash, credit cards, phone, all of those should be on your person. Now, if you have access to a safe, don't keep all your assets in one place. Even if you're out for the day, maybe you have, cash and credit cards. You split some between your small day bag and maybe a body pouch or something. If you can utilize the room safe, do that. Only keep what you need in your day bag and try not to keep everything all in one place. That way, if something does, heaven forbid, get swiped, you haven't lost absolutely everything. When you are thinking about packing your bags for your flight, you do not check medications, money and credit cards, jewelry, or lithium ion batteries. And unfortunately, that means that Apple AirTags and tile trackers cannot be checked. There is a risk of fire, and so those cannot be checked anymore. You also cannot check power banks. Those always have to stay with you in the cabin when you're flying. Moving on to planning. I recommend having a rough plan, but leaving room for some spontaneity. You just never know who you might meet or what you might get to experience if you aren't planned tightly. When you're looking at your accommodations, choose things that are central. You want to be very easy to access the places you want to visit, whether they're pubs or attractions. Being closer with easier access is just going to be safer. More remote areas, not only are they, they'll make it more difficult for you to get somewhere, but you also, you're still remote. There aren't maybe as many people around to help you if you need it. If you're using Airbnb or other by owner rentals, be sure to read those reviews super carefully. Be aware of the cancellation policy. And I would even recommend reaching out to them and talking with the owner just a little bit so you can get a feel of how quickly are they going to respond if something happens. And, do they seem friendly? Do they seem like they're going to be helpful? Again, that goes back to your gut instinct and just trusting your gut as to the people that you're going to be trusting with your safety and your accommodations. Go ahead and plan your transportation in advance as well. Book that rental car if you're going to be self-driving. If you are going to be utilizing point-to-point drivers or taxis, you want to maybe pre-book if you're going to be in more rural areas because they're, not a taxi on every corner. If you're going to an event, go ahead and pre-book that taxi prior to that event so that it can be waiting for you when that ends and you don't have to kind of fight with everybody else trying to get a taxi to take them home at the end of it. For those, you can use either the Free Now app, which works just like Uber, calls a taxi, works in the Republic of Ireland. In some locations of Ireland, Uber will work as well. It will just call a taxi. There is not rideshare in Ireland, but both of those apps in the Republic are pretty well used. In Northern Ireland, you could use Uber. Free Now does not work up there right now. If you're traveling by train, you can book those in advance at irishrail.ie. If you don't want to book in advance, my recommendation would be to just know which time and train you want to be on and maybe just keep track of it, because there are some trains that will book out. So if the time you want to leave looks like it's popular, book it in advance. Otherwise, most of the time, as long as you're not traveling at the high points of the day, you can just walk up to the train station and get your ticket and buy it right then. Buses will require you to do some research so you know what bus you need, when it runs, where it goes, how many stops it has, and the kind of the precautions you need to take if you are especially going point to point and transferring luggage on a bus. If you're doing any guided tours, whether they be walking tours or day trips, you want to go ahead and book those in advance. Read the online reviews carefully before you book. Know where the pickup and drop off points are and what time those are. And if like your drop off time is later in the evening, maybe prearrange that taxi to get you back to your accommodation if it's not a very close walk. A little bit more research that you may want to do is to know what the top attractions are in the destinations that you're visiting, know what will sell out, what might need to be booked in advance, and know what time those attractions open and close. You may also want to create a rough budget so you know what you have to spend, because there's nothing worse, in my mind at least, than a vacation that follows you home as debt. And don't forget to factor in a few splurges. So if you happen to find the most amazing tweed jacket in Donegal, you can buy it then and there without a second thought. I hope the tips in this episode have helped you to feel more secure and more positive about your solo trip to Ireland. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can't leave a review on your podcast app, you can visit Ireland Family Vacations on Facebook and leave a review there, or you can visit Trustpilot at irelandfamilyvacations.com/trust and just say something nice. I would really appreciate it. If you have questions or comments on this episode, please email me, Jody, Jody, at irelandfamilyvacations.com. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, slán go fóill.